Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Big Apple Hockey. This one is another special episode, and it's much more bright than yesterday's, which I know a lot of people are chirping at me on in the comments, but I stand by what I said. There shouldn't be any smoke, but never mind that. I, of course, everybody, am your host, Mark Williams, and it is time to make a better Stanley Cup prediction than I did at the beginning of the year, when I actually thought the Rangers and the Nashville Predators were going to be good. So, and of course, I'm joined by the man who had the final buzzer last night, catches tribute to Sam Rosen, Mr. John Fulkowski.
Yeah, we're going to miss Sam Rosen, but it is time for playoff hockey. First round is probably my favorite time of the year because it's just, there's so much chaos going on, and it's so many matchups, so many different series. We got the Battle of Florida, we got the Battle of Ontario, and Colorado and Dallas should all be absolute banger series. So I'm pretty psyched for that.
Yeah, I mean, these are all there's a lot of good series that are coming. I said on our show a couple weeks ago that I'm very much looking forward to Edmonton versus LA. That LA, I think, should be plenty motivated to smite the Dragon, and we're going to go with a bunch of numbers that are looking favorable in their way.
By the way, get the letter Kenny LA for every time we say
LA. Everything's better at LA.
Please get this. We have to get that sound.
We'll definitely do that. And catch our playoff preview today, but also catch our Islander and Rangers season wrap up. The Rangers season wrap up is going to be Tuesday. And we may have an Islanders season wrap up Monday, if not the week after. So we're going to see about that.
Yeah, and then for Tuesday, just remember we're going to have everybody from Rangers Central on with us. I think Ice Cold, Joey DeMeglio from Ice Cold Takes is going to be on with us as well. And then we're going to have a special guest, Johnny Lazarus.
And that's where it's we're at the pinnacle. Love when we had Johnny on the first time. Love when we had him coming into the comments another time. So can't wait to do more of that. And by the way, guys, we're going to do our own playoff bracket challenge. Click the link below or the link that's right now in the comments on YouTube. Fill out your own bracket. See if you can beat us. I stand by my prediction pretty well. We're going to get into my prediction and Phil's prediction. And will we tell you Anthony's? We might. All right. Phil, let's get to the playoffs, and let's start, of course, with the number one overall seed. Uh-oh. We got a good comment right there.
Yeah, bloodthirsty Josh there. Look at him. Timeline for Lavi firing. He can't wait.
Oh, God. There's going to be so many stories that have to go with the New York Rangers soon enough. Trust me, and everybody's and again, just before we get started, I know people are really getting on me because I'm predicting a whole lot of changes. Yeah, there has to be. They can't run this team back with another coach. Seriously, this team is so far beyond the 2016 San Jose Sharks that they should not be trying to keep this going. And I had somebody else say to me, Phil, and I guess we'll get on this rant real quick. Somebody else say to me, well, you're getting rid of Keandre Miller. You're getting rid of Mika Zibanejad. You're getting rid of Chris Kreider.
Tuesday too, so just remember that.
Yeah. There is so much that we're predicting that has to go. But, Phil, it has to go. You got players that aren't developing. You have stars that are malcontents. And there's Chris Drury tried to change his team on the fly, and now I'm convinced Chris Drury has to go. Why anybody is going to sit back and go, well, this guy should say, this guy should, other than Adam Fox and the young players and Vinny Trocheck and Vinny Trocheck could be on the chopping block too. JT Miller you just got. You can't get rid of him. And he was actually pretty good for them.
Yeah.
Everything must go on this team.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've went over this a lot. So let's move on from the Rangers, though.
Yeah, let's move on from the Rangers. Okay. Because, again, I had to address some of the things. I'm going to make sure I put a chapter in there for you guys. Let's start with the Winnipeg Jets versus the St. Louis Blues. Let's try that again. Let's try with the Winnipeg Jets versus the St. Louis Blues. The best team in the league versus the hottest team in the league. You look at the Jets' numbers, Filk. 3.35 goals for per game, 2.35 goals against per game. The goals for tied for third in the league. The goals against leading the league, best in the NHL. They have the best power play total in the season, 28.9%. And the one vulnerability, their penalty kill, 79.4. That puts them in the middle of the pack at 13. But you look at the St. Louis Blues, Filk. The Blues, their ranks since the Four Nations break. Most points in the NHL, most goals per game at the NHL. At number
second least goals against.
And second in goals against. But who are they second to?
Winnipeg.
The team they're playing. So, and of course, we talked about this before. Leading the league since then, Robert Thomas, 41 points. Filk, what are the factors you're looking in this series?
Well, right now, the first thing I look at is goaltending. Are you getting the Four Nations Jordan Binnington, the Four Nations / 2019 Stanley Cup playoff run Jordan Binnington? Are you getting the Jordan Binnington that's been on this heater for the Blues? If you're not, then it doesn't matter because Connor Hellebuck's the best goalie in the league. And I know that Connor Hellebuck, the last 2 seasons, the playoff numbers haven't been great. But I do think that there is a distinct advantage in net for Winnipeg. Defensively, these are 2 very good defensive teams. Something changed with St. Louis. Well, I can tell you what the change is. The change is Jim Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Montgomery, and I think that's where St. Louis's one major advantage is behind the bench. I do think that Montgomery is the better coach out of these 2 coaches. And I don't think it's particularly close. No offense to Scott Arniel, who I like. But Jim Montgomery, I think, is arguably the best coach in the entire NHL right now, if it's not John Cooper. So I do like Winnipeg's roster construction a little better. I think they're a little more playoff tested than St. Louis. St. Louis doesn't have a lot of the guys that were there when they won in 2019. There's no Ryan O'Reilly. There's no Alex Pietrangelo. There's no Carl Gunnarsson. There's no Jay Bouwmeester. There's a lot of the guys that were a part of that run are no longer there. Pat Maroon, obviously. I think Winnipeg is a little more battle-tested. I think it's I do like this idea here. I like this idea. Running polls for him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could do that. Let's see if we can get each one.
Yeah.
I'll get that up there.
If you can set that up while we're
yeah, I could do that, I think, while we're doing
set that
this.
up while I'll be talking. But I mean I look at the penalty kill. I mean, Winnipeg's is better overall. Their power play also better overall, but St. Louis has been on a total heater. You can't discount momentum. I really think that Winnipeg is. I think the way I picked it, I might change my games. I think. I don't know if I can do that though.
Oh, you can. You can change it, but you probably have to do that afterwards, Filk.
Oh, okay, yeah. I put in the bracket. I put Winnipeg in 5. I think I want to go 6 for this. I like St. Louis to only a point. I just don't think they're deep enough to beat Winnipeg. I think they will give them some problems. I think these games will be very close. I don't think you're going to see blowout games. I think you're going to see like 2-1 and 3-2 games. I'd be shocked if either of these teams scored more than like 4 goals in a game. Yeah, you could do options like that, 4 to 5, 6 to 7, and then for St. Louis, do the same thing.
Yeah, I'll do that again in a minute. I just did. Who do you think is going to win this series, Winnipeg or St. Louis?
Okay, yeah, no problem. No,
I'll do that on the next one.
Yeah, do that on the next one. But I think if anything, we're looking at. I think Winnipeg's going to advance. I just think a lot of these guys are, like I said, battle tested. I know I think they're going to be without Nikolai Ehlers for this series, but Nikolai Ehlers' playoff numbers have not been good. A lot of people talk about, some of the Rangers guys not showing up. Nikolai Ehlers has been a ghost in the playoffs. His numbers have been abysmal playoff wise over the years. So I think it's a loss, but if he continues to play the way that he has in the playoffs, they'll be able to get by without him, I think.
Yeah, Felk, I think that's a great point. And I just look at Winnipeg. There's going to be a theme going on in this series, in these all these numbers, where you're going to have a lot of teams that I'm going to say from this date on, this team has been hot. Take, for instance, Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington, since the Four Nations break, 13-3-1, 223 goals against, and a 910 save percentage. You're like, oh my God, that's amazing. He's playing out of his mind. But Connor Hellebuyck is 13-5-1 with a 924 save percentage and a 187. There are guys that you're going to look at and go, hey, or even teams you're going to look at and go, this team is playing really hot right now. Yeah, but the team you're playing is much better. They've been better, and they're still better. That's what part of the problem is. This is going to be one of those stories. I don't think it's going to be like the Washington Capitals last year. I do think the Jets will pull this series out. I think it's going to take them a little bit longer than they want to. I am going to go Winnipeg in 6, and that's my first round. Because I know everybody wants to predict a President's Trophy winner going down early. This ain't going to be it. The St. Louis has been great. Would I be surprised if St. Louis won this series? Actually, a little, but not much. Just because I think Montgomery's got him playing really well, but also Winnipeg is just dominant. I really like where they're going. And here's one thing: when Mark Scheifele wasn't picked for the Four Nations, he absolutely went off. Once he wasn't picked for Four Nations, I think he was kind of circling this date and getting ready. And so was everybody on the Winnipeg Jets. This is a motivated team. I like Winnipeg in this series in 6. Just going to check out what you guys thought on that real quick. We have 75% of everybody saying right now the Winnipeg Jets, only a handful saying the St. Louis Blues. And Josh is saying Winnipeg in 5 is my pick. All right, so we're going to cut that one off right there. Let's start a new one when we get started on that in a second. On this one, the series of the first round, Filk, the Colorado Avalanche versus the Dallas Stars. You look at the Dallas Stars ranks. Goals for per game, tied for 3rd. They're tied with, I had to find out who's on there. I think it's the Washington Capitals. Oh, no, they're tied with the Winnipeg Jets. I'm sorry. 2.71 goals against per game. Phil, that was a bit of a shocking number for me. They're at 27th. Their power play down at 22%. And their penalty kill tied for 4th in the league at 82%. You look at the Colorado Avalanche, Phil, 3.33 goals for per game, 2.82 goals against per game, and 24% power play and 79% on the penalty kill. So really their power play kind of favors a little bit more. You look at the star power on that team. I'll try to get a number for you in a minute since they acquired Barney Natchez. But you look at Cale Makar, who was the first 30-goal defenseman since Mike Green in 2009, 92 points. Filk, your thoughts on this series?
So for this one, I had picked Colorado in 6. Dallas just did not address their one glaring weakness. That's their right side defense. Their right side defensive depth is just simply not good enough. You're running out guys like Ilya Lyubushkin, Matt Dumba, Cody Ceci. I mean, these are not the guys that, or Alex Petrovic. I mean, you got Liam Bichelle right now. Miro Haskinen's out. As Miro Haskinen comes back, that can obviously change things up, but he's on the left side. It's just not good enough. Their defense is, I'm sorry, just not good enough. Their penalty kill might be good, but the offense, for all the guys that they have, Granlund, Hintz, Dodonov, Duchesne, Sagan, Ben, Wyatt Johnston, Mikko Rantanen, like that's their third line right now is Ben Johnston and Rantanen. Like they're spreading out their offense, and that's going to be tough to stop. But the fact that they've had a lot of trouble despite bringing in Mikko Rantanen, who looks like he's starting to fit in better there. That's concerning for me. It really is. He ended the season with 88 points in 82 games. He had 18 points in 20 games with Dallas. So definitely picking up and being more like the point per game player he is. But I am not liking Dallas in this series. I think they have an edge in goal, but I said Avalanche in 6 because I think the center depth is better. I think they have more game breakers on Colorado. I think Nathan McKinnon and Marty Necas have looked great together. That's going to be tough for Dallas' defense to stop, especially if Miro Heiskanen is not back for this series. I like Ottinger over Blackwood. Blackwood's been an improvement on what they've had in previous years, obviously with Kemper and Georgiev and so on. But I'm not liking this Dallas right side defense. I really think that's going to cost them in this series. I really do. If the offense has the puck the majority of the time, then they can make up for that. But I don't know if they're going to be able to possess the puck that well against a team like Colorado, especially with Colorado probably having the best 1-2-3 punch in the league with McKinnon, Brock Nelson, and Charlie Coyle down the middle. So, and yeah, Landeskog is going to be back. That's going to be a big boost for them. A big, big boost. That's their Willis Reed right there. That's somebody that can be an emotional leader and provide a shot in the arm. So, definitely think that Colorado is winning this series.
It's amazing, Filk, because Landeskog coming back, that's just – we talked about this on Wednesday's show, that they were asked about, why not just make so-and-so the captain, like Nate McKinnon. And everybody had this saying of just Landeskog is coming back. They all believed it. And 3 years after his injury, he's finally back. Just him being on that bench is going to help. And what happens if he scores a goal? That building might explode. This is almost reminiscent, by the way, Filk, of last year's first round, Winnipeg versus Colorado again. And I would not be surprised if it's Colorado pulling another 3-2 upset and winning it in 6 games. And I look at the numbers. I also can't believe how Joe Sakic remade his net completely on the fly, replacing Georgiev and company. Oh, that was over there. I forgot who the backup was at the moment. And then putting in the Woods with Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood. But it's just, the Avalanche, what they've done, and then the trade Mikko Rantanen. And you're looking at some of these stats that they have. Well, that was the Kellen McCarr stat, but they got the best power play in the league right now since they acquired him. That's insane to even think about. You drop Mikko Rantanen, you got better. I really like Brock Nelson on there. I think the Avalanche could do this, and I think I said the Avalanche in 7 because I don't think the Stars are going to go quietly. I agree with you, especially with Heiskanen. That right side needs some help for them, and I originally had Dallas winning the series. I had to switch it today. I'll get to your results on this right now. Everybody, I got the majority of people saying Colorado in 6 or 7, 75% of you. So let's stop that one. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Minnesota Wild. Phil, this one might be ugly because you look at Vegas's ranks, 5th in the NHL goals per game, 3rd in the NHL goals against per game. So they could put the puck in the net. They could keep it out of the net. 2nd in the league in power play with a 28.3%. Again, another weakness, penalty killing. That's a rough one.
Yeah,
you look at the Minnesota Wild. Oh, sorry, Phil. You look at the Minnesota Wild, they really don't have many stats that really look at and go, dang, they're going to be good. And another thing is Kirill Kaprizov, he missed a lot of time, but he's been back for 4 games, 4 games, 4 points, but 3 of them were against the San Jose Sharks. Filk, go into this series.
I picked Vegas in 5. I think you're looking at a recovering Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek. Philip Gustafson versus Aiden Hill. Aiden Hill's a Stanley Cup tested goaltender. You know, he actually put up good numbers in that playoff run in 2023. I said Vegas in 5. I don't think Minnesota has the depth to stay with them. I don't think they have the two-way players also to stay with them. I think these games, again, will probably be close, but I just think I would not want to play against Jack Eichel right now.
Nope.
I just think Jack Eichel reminds me of Mike Modano, like the Ken Hitchcock Mike Modano, like that, the guy that's really driving the play, both ends of the ice. He's a Selke caliber player, if you ask me. I think this Jack Eichel also. These guys have a Stanley Cup. They're tested. I mean, it's just I don't think Minnesota has enough firepower. And we've seen Kaprizov go off in a series and Minnesota still lose. I don't know if Minnesota's that much better of a team than they were the last time that happened. I mean, yes, Marco Rossi is here and he's a good player. Matthew Boldy has gotten better since then. But I like their defense corps. I just don't think there's enough secondary scoring behind guys like Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek. It's just not enough for me. I think they needed another center. I think they needed another legitimate top 6 winger to kind of hang with a team like Vegas. Defense, I don't worry about. Gustafson, could Gustafson steal them the series? Maybe. He's good enough. I just don't think he will. So, I'm going with Vegas at 5 on this.
Yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath. I think Vegas at 5. I'll give Minnesota a game. I'd be shocked if the series goes much longer. This might be a little bit more. No, I don't think. I was going to say it might be reminiscent of their first round series against Winnipeg a couple years ago. But no, I think it's going to be. I'm just trying to pinpoint where the Wild win this many games. I think Vegas can match up better. We always talk about Joel Eriksson Ek, who's a really good defensive center, Selke quality. But everybody forgets about William Karlsson, who's really, really a good matchup center. And then you have Eichel, who's playing at a two-way, one of the best levels he's ever been. Filk, I got Vegas at 5. That's just it right there. I just can't see Minnesota getting more out of it. But Minnesota fans, Granny, good news. Cap hell is over as soon as July 1st hits. So This team is going to be improving by a lot. Everybody is saying right now, well, we actually got a good chunk of people saying Vegas 6 or 7. And you have only 20% saying Vegas in 4 or 5. The same amount is saying Wild in 6 or 7. So let's get another one going right here. Let's go to a series. I am looking forward to the series because this has to be their time to do it. The Edmonton Oilers versus the Los Angeles Kings from LA. We're quoting Letterkenny, people. Don't worry about that. You look at LA, 14th in goals for. That's middle of the pack. Second in goals against per game. Their power play, not great, ranked 27th, 17.9%. The penalty kill, ranked 8th. Here's the key factor: 31-6-4 at home. That is an outstanding home record. Even though let's say 31-5-4, because do you really count last night's game against the Flames? I mean, there wasn't much there. Edmonton Oilers, on the other hand, 10th in goals for. You think about a team that has Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, you think it would be even higher than that. Their goals against, 14th. That's middle of the pack. Power play, 23%. That's only good for 12th. And their penalty kill was awful at 16th. Well, middle of the pack. Not really awful. But since the Four Nations break, Darcy Kemper, 178 goals against, 926 save percentage. That puts him second in the NHL. We'll get to who is number one later on in the show. Edmonton, Stuart Skinner, he's 833 save percentage. That's just not going to do it. And a 3 goals against. Is this the perfect time for LA to get Edmonton?
Maybe. I went Edmonton at 7. I still something about McDavid and Draisaitl in the playoffs, and just being McDavid's one of the best playoff performers we've ever seen. Like, his numbers are absolutely absurd in the playoffs. Like, he takes it to a level that Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux could only take it to in the playoffs. And you just, I don't know if I could really bet against that. He's got 130 points in 82 career playoff games. And his last 3 playoff runs have been absurd. So since that 2021 bubble, since we've come out of it, McDavid has had 95 points in 53 playoff games with 26 goals. He had 42 points last year. It's only the 3rd player in NHL history to do that.
And he won the Conn Smythe.
And he won the Conn Smythe
in the losing
effort, becoming the first to do so since Jean-Sébastien Giguère in 2003. Ron Hextall was the first to do it in 1987.
Well, there's a couple guys that did it because going back, but also don't forget he became the second skater to do that since Reggie the Rifle
was
Leach.
The first goalie, to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Reggie the Rifle Leach.
Yes,
and,
Reggie Leach in 76. Yes.
76.
Yeah.
And you have 19 goals in the playoffs. That's what happens.
Yeah, playoff record. Crazy. But Connor McDavid set the assists record in a playoff series or in a playoff run with 34 last year. I get it. Edmonton, I see the comments in chat talking about Ekholm being out, Edmonton's defense. If Edmonton can possess the puck, which they can, I do think that they are a problem. I think they are a massive problem. What has to happen here is that Zach Hyman has to break out of the slump that he had this year. Obviously, there was going to be some regression from a 50-goal year, but Zach Hyman's got to come up big. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has got to be big for them. And Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse, they're going to have to handle a bit of the load. And I think they can. So I'm going to go Edmonton. Stuart Skinner, yes, definitely worries me with his play. Darcy Kemper has been playing better. He's also behind a better defensive system than he's ever been in his career. I get why people are worrisome about Edmonton. I'm going to go with Edmonton. I'm sorry.
I'm going with LA in the series. I think LA finally gets the monkey off their back, because when push came to shove in the first 2 times they had that series, when I think they lost in 6 and 7, just they couldn't control the Oilers power play, and they didn't have the goaltending to make the save. I'm going to give Darcy Kemper all the credit in the world. You look at these numbers, just 178 in a goals against since the Four Nations. He's dialed in, and he looks a lot like the Darcy Kemper that was in Arizona. I know I'm going back a ways, but that was a good goalie. Everybody forgets about him in those days. But you look at Edmonton's got to get all their guys firing on all cylinders right now. And Filk, the second best player for playoffs, you didn't even mention him, was Leon Draisaitl. And he's right there too. You got to contain both those guys. I still wonder, when is LA, who has 2 of the best defensive forwards in the league, finally going to contain these guys? You got Anze Kopitar and Philip Deneau. How? But it also says how good Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are.
But that's the thing, though. Anze Kopitar is a year older. He's a year older. He's, I think, 37 now. He's the same draft as Sidney Crosby, 2005. We're talking about one of the best 2-way players ever, and he's getting older. You really think he's going to be able to contain Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl? I don't know about that.
I think you're only hoping Draisaitl's
going to be healthy. He's got something to prove. You got to remember, he was not healthy in the playoffs last year, and the numbers, they showed it. And this is somebody that's coming in with something to prove. And yeah, LA has to make big changes if they lose this series. Like, things have to be moved around a bit. So, Drew Doughty, also another one, a year older. You got to remember, two of LA's biggest guys, their best center and their best defenseman, are on the older side.
And Kemper.
Oh, Kemper's not that old. He's not nearly as old as those guys.
No, but he ain't exactly in the middle of his prime.
No, I mean, that's a different story, though. Like, he's in his early 30s. Drew Doughty is 34.
With a lot of miles.
Actually, so is Kemper. Wow. He was a 2009 draft. I didn't think he was drafted that young. But Doughty, Drew Doughty is, I think, 34. Yeah. He's 35. Drew Doughty's 35. He's getting up there in age. I mean, yes, he still keeps up Anze Kopitar, but, I mean, it's a year older. So, yes, this is a good point with Skinner. He's banged up a little bit. So, yes, but I don't know. I don't see them in the same light as the Islanders. Barry Trotz is a better defensive coach than Jim Hillier. Way better defensive coach. And I like Jim Hillier. I do. I had him as my midseason pick for Jack Adams winning.
Yes, he did.
But I don't think there's enough there. I don't. They have a lot of trouble scoring goals. Anze Kopitar is not a big-time goal scorer. Not a big-time goal scorer. Like, that's not a guy that's going to be scoring you a ton of goals anymore. I think when I look at this team, I don't like their scoring. Adrian Kempe, 35 goals, 73 points. Okay, Anze Kopitar, 21 goals and 67 points. That's not great. Kevin Fiala, 35 goals. Quinton Byfield, 23. Warren Fogle, 24. Philip Deneau, 8. Alex Laferriere, 19. Trevor Moore, 18. And then they had no other guys that were in double digits in goals outside of those guys. Oh, Byfield, 23. But there's not a lot of scoring depth here. There really isn't. You have 8 guys with 40 points, but 2 of those guys are really like bottom 6 guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, I look at Drew Doughty. He's only played 30 games. He had 17 points. I mean, yes, that might have helped him a little bit, but I don't know about – I really don't know about this. You can look at the names and say, yeah, but where's the scoring depth?
Yeah, that's what hurts them.
The scoring depth is that good there. I really don't. LA's going to have to win a lot of games, 2-1, 3-2 at most. And Edmonton can absolutely turn games into track meets. And if that happens, LA's screwed. They don't have the firepower to go with those guys.
But would you be concerned whether or not if Edmonton opens it up, then their defensive deficiencies will come really into focus?
Mean, that's the caveat to that. Yeah, that could happen.
Yeah.
But if Edmonton has the puck, I mean, sometimes the best defense is having the puck and being on offense. Like, look at Erik Karlsson. Guy couldn't defend to save his life in his own zone. But he won 2 Norris trophies, actually 3. Sorry, because he had the puck. He had the puck, and that's it. Nothing you can do.
Although, me personally, if you win a Norris trophy on a last place team, you're not really the best defenseman. So, sorry.
I do kind of agree.
But let's go to the Eastern Conference, Filk, and let's go to first off, before I do that, let's go over to everybody's results of the poll. 62% are saying that the LA Kings are going to win in 6 or 7. We got 23% saying LA in 4 or 5. Actually, Filk, I'm sorry, I forgot to say LA in 4 or 5. And Edmonton in 6 or 7. Nobody is taking Edmonton to make it into a short series. So we will see about that. I mean, could Edmonton do it? I don't know. Phil, part of me also thinks Edmonton looked at the players that were available and went, these guys were good 5 years ago. When they were signing free agents like Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner. And I mean, I don't know what you're going to get, if anything. Is Vander Kane back? he's been in and out of the lineup. So I don't know. All right. Guys, let's go over the Washington Capitals versus the Montreal Canadiens. You have the team that was number one in the Eastern Conference pretty much the entire season versus the Cinderella story, and quite a run by them, because a couple different times it looked like they might not get a point in some games, and every point mattered. They were able to pull it out in the final minute or even minutes. But you look at these stats, Filk, this for the entire season. Washington, goals for per game, second, 3.49. Goals against per game, ninth, 2.79. Power play, middle of the pack, 14th. You think Washington would have a more stout power play, but everybody's a little bit older. And their penalty kill, fourth in the league. That all sounds good. Now let's go to the Canadiens, who I thought were going to have much better stats than these, but you look at some of these, this is just since the Four Nations tournament ended. They're middle of the pack in goals for per game, 3.15. They're still very high on the goals against per game. Actually, let me double check that stat. And 23rd on power play and middle of the pack on penalty kill. Sam Montembeault, since the Four Nations, 2.48 goals against and a 912 save percentage. Filk, who do you got in this series?
Washington at 5. I just think this Montreal unit is young and experienced. I don't think they're built particularly tough either. I like some of their depth guys. I mean, Brendan Gallagher is a pain in the neck to play against. Jake Evans. I don't trust Sam Montembeault either. I think Logan Thompson is the better goaltender of the two. I do think Demidov can have some sort of impact in the series, but again, he's coming over, and now he's going to face a big, bad physical team, and they're going to make his life and the other Montreal Canadiens players' lives hell. Hudson, another one. They're going to be all over these guys. So I gave Montreal a game just because I think that they can. Would I like to see them upset the Capitals? Yes. Do I think it's happening? No, I don't. I really don't. I think that even though Washington are the PDO Kings, I do think that against a team like this, it's sustainable. Yeah, that's my pick too, Maria's Capitals in 5. No, I don't think Ovechkin is retired since breaking the record. I do think that they are the better team. I think they're better all around. I think they have more all-around depth than the Canadiens. I think the Canadiens actually have a stacked offensive team, like in terms of firepower. Like they have some great firepower. I love what they have going up front. They have one of the better two-way players in the league, and Nick Suzuki. Cole Caulfield, 37 goals and 70 points. Lane Hudson, first 60, tied Larry Murphy's rookie assist record for a defenseman with 60 assists, 66 points. Juraj Slafkovsky at 51 points. I mean, and after that, there's kind of a downward trend. But Patrick Laine missed 30 games and had 20 goals and 33 points. I think Mike Matheson can give you a little more than 31 points. But, we were waiting for Kirby Dach to kind of break out. Doesn't seem like he's going to break out. But Demidov, 2 games and 2 points, although they both came in his first game. But there's definitely some firepower in that offense from Montreal. But I just think that Capitals are big. They're battle-tested. They've got Stanley Cup experience. I mean, a lot of the guys that were on this team or on the 2018 team are on this team right now. You talk about Ovechkin, Conn Smythe winner. I think it should have been Kuznetsov with his 32 points. But Dylan Strome, point per game. Alexei Protas, I don't know if the 21% shooting percentage is going to carry over the playoffs. PLD's got playoff experience. I know Mr. Ebola. Tom Wilson has playoff experience, Stanley Cup. Sean Carlson, Stanley Cup. Jacob Chikrin, 20 goals, 47 points. Rasmus Sandin. Andrew Mangiapane was 10th in scoring. That's a guy that had a 35-goal season a few years back. So Nick Dowd, Matt Roy, these are guys with with legitimate playoff experience. I like Washington's roster better, so I'm gonna go with Washington here.
I did have to make one correction, Phil. I thought that seemed like an error right there. The 2.65 goals against per game, that's 8th in the league since the Four Nations, not 26. So that was.
No, Jacob Ron is another one who was on that 20.
Yeah, but how much impact does Jacob Vrana really have with them now, Phil? That would be my question.
Not a ton, but I mean, again, unsung heroes always come out in the playoffs. I mean, I know you're old enough to remember John Druce and what he did to the Rangers.
Oh, the Druce is loose. 9 goals, the Washington Capitals over the New York Rangers. And yeah, and you know what? We haven't had it in the last few years, or even I can't remember the last time that we haven't had the next RJ Armberger or Sean Bergenheim come out of nowhere and just score a million goals and sign a new contract and never live up to that.
I mean, the last time I can remember that probably be Brian Bickle. Bickle got that contract after his playoff run in 2013, and then he ended up just declining fast, and then he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and that was the end of his career.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that for a second. But this series, I think it's a lot reminiscent, Phil, of the first round series the Capitals were in last year, except they're the ones in the driver's seat. And I do think I do think Montreal is going to have a little bit of magic. And let me just see what I said on the brackets. I did say Washington in 6. I like Washington's game just all the way. Clarkson in Toronto, he had a good run.
Oh, he had that 30-goal season with New Jersey and then got a contract and disappeared. But I don't think it was a playoff run that really.
Yeah, it wasn't really a playoff run.
It was more of the regular season he had.
Yeah. So I got to go Capitals in 6 on this. Let's go to what your picks are. You guys have 43% are saying Capitals in 5 or 6. 36% are saying Caps in 6 or 7. And the remaining people, 21%, Habs in 6 or 7. Nobody's taking the Habs in a short series on that one. All right, going over to the other Metro series, the Carolina Hurricanes versus the New Jersey Devils. The Carolina Hurricanes ranks, you look at them, they're still strong, Phil. I mean, some of these numbers are still kind of impressive. Goals 4 per game, they're ranked 9th, 3.24. Their goals against per game, 23rd. That's not very Carolina-ish.
Nope.
Their power play, 25th in the league, but their penalty killing, best in the NHL. It always is. So that would kind of be something that jumps out at you. But you look at the New Jersey Devils, they have a lot of good stats. And I have to agree with this one. This one's I don't like this series whatsoever. Although there is somebody that might surprise you in this series. The New Jersey Devils, since March 3rd, Jack Hughes went down March 2nd. That's why there's a line of demarcation there. Goals 4 per game, 2.75. That's good for 26th. Goals against per game, 3.35. That's good for 24th in the league.
Oh, great. That was what I was thinking too.
The Devils, this is an odd stat, Phil. Best in the NHL since Jack Hughes went down on the power play, 32.6%, and their PK is at 82%. Phil, what is your overview of this series?
I took Carolina in 5. Everybody talks about how Jacob Markstrom's a better goaltender than Freddie Anderson, but Jacob Markstrom is just as inconsistent as Anderson is in the playoffs. I don't think he's all that good. I really don't. I know Jim Beeringer, our friend of the show, was telling me in a DM like a week or two ago that Markstrom has been what they've needed from him. But, I mean, the numbers this year really weren't all that good. He had a 900 even save percentage and a 250 goals against. Like, that's not great. And he's had 2 playoff runs. And he had a 919 save percentage in 2020 in the bubble, and then a 901 save percentage in Calgary in 2022 in 12 games. So I'm not high on Markstrom, and I don't think Anderson's that great either. I think Carolina's a better team. I think they have a better coach. I like Brindamore more than I like Sheldon Keefe. Jack Hughes has yet to prove that he's worth anything in the playoffs when he's not playing a Rangers team that quit on their coach. I don't trust this Devils team at all. I don't. They have some firepower, but really, like, where are we going with this? Rod doesn't lose in round one. Jacob Slavin is the best defensive defenseman in the league, and if his assignment is Jack Hughes is not scoring when he's on the ice. Sorry, he's not. So, is Jack Hughes even going to be back for this series?
I don't think so.
And if he's not back for this series, then they're already done. They're already done because they don't have the center depth to handle, Carolina as is. But yeah, he was invisible against the Canes 2 years ago, and that was the year that he had his big 99-point season. So no, and Jack Hughes was not good at the Four Nations. I don't care what anybody says. He wasn't. He was terrible in that series. So Jacob Slavin, if he doesn't have to deal with Jack Hughes and he has to deal with Nico Hischier, oh man, the Devils are done. And this could even be a sweep. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if this is a sweep. No, but yeah. I give the Devils a game out of respect.
And I got to agree with you on that. I'm giving the Devils a game out of respect. You could call that the gentleman's sweep, but I'll flash the stats on Markstrom again. This is all since Hughes went down. 5-6-1, 3.44 goals against, and an 865 save percentage.
Sorry, I had to flash that comment.
Yeah, because of the cardio con. Hughes had season-ending shoulder surgery, but it's you never know. Sometimes you have to see whether or not they're going to get reactivated or there's a chance that they can come back. But this is Nico Hischier's played great, 26 points in 24 games, and Jesper Bratt 24 points in 24 games for them since the Hughes injury. But this is not going to be a long series. If the Devils can make this a series, I'd give them some credit. I didn't even put up the poll on this one, everybody. I'm pretty sure it's going to be, if I did right now. Yeah, Ava's saying Jack is out till the summer. Yeah, because he had the surgery, so he couldn't do that. It's months. But this is an easy one. This is Carolina, and I'll give them 5 because Carolina likes to do a game where they just when Carolina has a series completely in control. Look at the Bruins 2 years ago. They were completely in control of the Bruins, and then they went to Game 7 and had the home team win every single game. So I don't know, Filk. I want to say this one would be a sweep. It's hard to predict sweeps, but this one's 5. This is an easy one.
Yeah, I've got them 5.
All right. I'll get the poll up on the next one, guys. But then we have the Battle of Ontario, the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Ottawa Senators. This one seems like it's another mismatch because the Maple Leafs, 7th in goals for per game, 8th in goals against per game, 9th on the power play. Their penalty kill 17th. There's a little left to be desired. And Anthony Stolarz or Joseph Wall, not much playoff experience for both of them. So there's a question in that there versus Linus Ullmark. But you have the Ottawa Senators. None of these stats except for one is really that pretty. They're 2.95 goals for per game. That's good for 19th. They're 13th in goals against per game at 2.83. Power play is 11th, and penalty kill is 19th. You look at Austin Matthews, Filk, man, 6th in the NHL in scoring since the Four Nations break, and he has been very good. 13 goals, 20 assists. Who you got in this series?
I have Toronto in 6. I just think that Toronto is the more experienced, more well-rounded team. Ottawa is on the rise, but Toronto, for me, is the better team. I know Matthews missed some time this year, only 67 games, but Mitch Marner, 102 points. He plays Selke caliber wing, Selke caliber defense on the wing. William Nylander, 45 goals, 84 points. John Tavares was just under a point per game with 74 in 75 games with 38 goals. Matthew Nyes is starting to break out, 29 goals, 58 points, fell just short of a 30-30-60 year. Morgan Rielly is really their best defenseman in terms of offensive production, but they brought in Oliver Ekman-Larsson. They have Jake McCabe. They added Chris Tanev. They added more physical, more defensive types. Brandon Carlo has been a nice little addition for them. He was a +4 since coming over. I do like Toronto's defensive core a lot more this time around than I have in previous years. They've gotten bigger, badder, tougher. I like the team toughness more. You bring in Max Domi, who's a little bit of an instigator, even though I don't really like the contract itself. Jake McCabe is another tough guy back there on defense we've talked about. Some of their other depth guys are playing well, like Bobby McMahon had a real nice season for them out of nowhere, 20 goals out of nowhere for him. I just wonder how the defense can help because they didn't have a single defenseman that had double-digit goals, and they only had one defenseman that had more than 5 goals, and that was Morgan Rielly with 7. So I do wonder about that, but they've got some guys that have experience. Ryan Reeves back there, in the event that they need to start mucking things up. Max Pacioretty has playoff experience. So they've got a much better, much more experienced and well-rounded team. But this Ottawa team is going to be on the rise. They're going to be back. Obviously, Stützle, Drake Batherson with a nice season. Jake Sanderson broke out, almost 60 points. He's their number one de facto guy now. Claude Giroux's got Stanley Cup final experience. Thomas Chabot, Shane Pinto. I like what they're doing here. I just don't think they're there yet. I will give them the advantage in goal. I do like Linus Ullmark over Anthony Stolarz. But Linus Ullmark is definitely the better goaltender there. I like them picking up Fabian Zetterlund, even though he doesn't do a whole lot. I like bringing in a guy like that because the type of player he is a guy you want in a playoff series. It's just a pain in the ass to play against. He goes out, he plays physical, he goes to the dirty areas to score goals. He's got some skill, and that's a nice depth addition for them. I just don't think they did enough to get over the top against a team like this.
Yeah. There's one caveat I have to go with that. I'm confidently picking the Leafs, but I do have to say there's one thing that troubles me. I got the Leafs in 5. I'm just not seeing the path really for Ottawa to win this series. I know everybody's saying Ottawa in 7, and because it's the Leafs, this might be the one time where there's a different Leafs team that's there. And I think the Leafs have a better mentality right now. They have a better playoff mentality. They have a different coach who is actually getting a message through. I mean, they won the division. I can't recall the last time they won the division. I mean, they've been perennially behind the Lightning and the Bruins for so long that you wouldn't even remember them. My one, like I said, caveat is they got to get quality play out of Anthony Stolarz. You look at the trend, 16 games played, 15 games started. He was 11-3-1 since the Four Nations break, and he's got a 920 save percentage and 922 save percentage and a 2.21 goals against. Now, all those numbers are making you go, "Hey, Filk, this guy is a real deal. He's good." My question on that is, he's already at 34 games played, Filk. The max amount of games he played in the season was with Anaheim. That was in 21-22. That was 28 games. Then you look at last year, he played 27 games with the Florida Panthers. So the question is, can he handle the grind of the NHL playoffs? And this time, you're not getting Joseph Wall to give you a day off. You got to deal with that grind. You go to overtime, double overtime, doesn't really matter. And here's the other thing. Has he been in a situation where he's let in a bad goal and he has to look to the bench to see whether or not he's going to get replaced? Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Craig Brewery is going to go with Stolarz the entire time. I know I keep saying Wall in there, but I think it's going to take a lot to get him to yank Stolarz. But still, can he handle it? I don't know. I do think the Maple Leafs can insulate him enough in the first round. MJ Edits saying right here, people need to realize the Sens defense, good defense, great forwards, lots of guys that are a pain in the ass to play against.
Yeah.
I get you, but the Maple Leafs, they could put up some guys too. Like, I mean, they got Scott Lawton at the trade deadline.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I like Brady Tkachuk and some of the other guys on Ottawa, and I think they will give them problems. But Toronto went and specifically got tougher in areas they needed to get tougher in by bringing in guys like Lawton and Tanev and you know, McCabe had been there already, but like they are definitely, I think, a tougher team than they've been previously, and that has been a problem. Yeah, Scott Lawton has not been a scorer for them. I mean, Carlo, yes, that was another one I talked about earlier. They brought in Brandon Carlo to make that defense bigger and tougher, and I think that's going to be a big difference against a team like Ottawa. And, you know, if they end up playing Washington, that's good. That could be a difference in a series like that as well.
Phil, I can't help but smile and think about this, though, because the teams have changed, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. And the last time Travis Green made the playoffs was with the Vancouver Canucks. And who they run into in the first round? They ran to the St. Louis Blues, coached by Craig Berube. And it did take Thatcher Demko to pull the upset in, I think it was a 5-game series. But that was quite a series that they had to do that with. But now the guys have changed. And
I think Lawton's a good fit down there. I mean, they're not going to be asking Lawton to score a ton of points down there in that bottom six.
No,
but
they
brought him in specifically for the playoffs. This is what they brought him in for. I'm telling you. He'll be a pain in the ass.
I think, Phil, there's just the people that want to just – I'm not saying our guys are saying that. I'm just saying there's a lot of people that want to say, oh, it's the Maple Leafs. They're going to blow it again. This is what they're going to do. This is one of those times where you got to say, look, they're going to do that. I mean – yeah, Lawton, Kelly Yarncrook, Steven Lorentz, Bob McCann. Like I think they're going to have enough, especially in their top six, to pull this off in 6 games. I just wonder about in net. That's where I kind of worry about them. I wonder about in net. Let's see what you guys are saying on this one. You guys got the Senators winning this in 6 or 7, 56% of you. Leafs 38% in 6 or 7. And the Leafs in a short series with only 6%. All right. Now we have one more series to go, guys. And it is a battle of 2 heavyweights, the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, whichever one of these 2 teams has made the last 5 Stanley Cup finals, that's kind of scary to even think about right there. So Florida always had to host the Stanley Cup finals game. You look at Tampa Bay, 3.56 goals per game, best in the NHL. 2.63 goals against per game, 4th best in the NHL. 25.9% power play percentage, 5th in the NHL. Penalty killing, 81.6%, 6th best in the NHL. Let's look at the Panthers, Filk. They're kind of middle of the pack on a lot of these numbers, but let's be honest. This team, it doesn't matter what their numbers are. Their only number is 16. They're trying to get that many wins in the playoffs. 3 goals per game, 15th. That's quite middle of the pack. The goals against average was 2.72. I think that one's wrong too. Great. That's what you should always do. Put the wrong stat up there. 23.5% on the power play, and you look at their penalty killing right there. Filk, who you got winning the Battle of Florida?
I have the Tampa Bay Lightning in 7. I think this is going to be arguably the best series in the first round, maybe best series of playoffs. I do think that I think the winner of this series goes to the finals. I think really this is what it comes down to. And I like Tampa Bay this time around. Florida has played a ton of hockey over the last 2 seasons. I think that's going to be a problem for them. I think Aaron Ekblad missing a ton of time due to that PED suspension is going to hurt them. I think Matthew Tkachuk coming back from injury. I think he'll be back for the start, I believe. But again, he's coming back from an injury. That's going to hurt them. They still have respectable numbers in all categories. They've got a great goaltender in Bobrovsky in the playoffs. But they're facing off against a guy that's all-time in the playoffs. And we're talking Andre Big Cat Vasilevsky. And I just think Tampa is playing the right hockey at the right time. And I'll tell you right now, Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde have been great additions for this team. I know Gourde only has 1 goal, but Tampa, their firepower up front is the deepest it's been since their 3 cup final appearances in a row with their 2 wins. I think their defense has gotten better. You bring in Ryan McDonough to kind of stabilize things, and I know Mikhail Sergachev had to go to make that happen, but Ryan McDonough has helped stabilize their defense. He was a league-leading plus 43, which is crazy. Nikita Kucherov won his 3rd Art Ross trophy, which is just nuts, 2nd in a row. Brandon Hagel scored 35 goals without scoring a single power play goal, which is an NHL record. Braden Point at 42. Jake Gensel at 41. You brought in Jake Gensel to replace Steven Stamkos, and he scores 40 goals. Scores 40 goals and 80 points. It's a point-per-game player. Victor Hedman had a 66-point season. Anthony Cirelli, another one who comes up big for them in the playoffs every year. 59 points, 27 goals. He's a Selke caliber player. Eric Chernak plays solid defense, eats big minutes for them in the playoffs. And a lot of their depth guys are really starting to play better hockey. Nick Perbix has been solid for them. Mitchell Chaffee has been a pain in the ass for them. Connor Geeky has been a really good fit. I mean, Mikey Asimov. Cam Atkinson's even playing good defense for them right now. So this is one team I would not want to play. And, Nick Paul's another one. Yeah, you could talk about Nick Paul. But Tampa they have the right pieces right now. I could see them winning it all. And I took them in 7.
I'm just finishing this poll so that way everybody can get their predictions up on it, because this is going to be the series must watch. This is must watch series. Like I said, I personally want to see LA versus Anaheim. I think there's going to be a lot of emotion in that. There's going to be a ton of emotion in this too, Filk. And I threw up these numbers too. The best goalie going into the playoffs right now, Andre Vasilevsky. He's looking like Andre Vasilevsky. I know he's had a couple of bad games down the stretch, but a 1.89 goals against and a 920 save percentage, best in the league among goalies that have 10 starts. That's amazing. I just wonder if Florida, who's trying to pull a Tampa, they were trying to rest everybody, get everybody ready at the last second and ready to go. Both of these teams are battle-tested teams. Both of these teams know what it takes to win because they're key players from championships, obviously with the Panthers last year and the run before that. But then you have Tampa, who went on those 3 runs. Most of that core outside of Steven Stamkos is there, and they replaced him with Jake Gensel, and he won 2 Stanley Cups and arguably could have won a Conn Smythe in one of those. But Filk, this is going to be a tough series. I've got Tampa in 7. because I just don't think Florida's going to go quietly. And usually you need a short series on the way to the Stanley Cup. It's not going to be this one if Tampa's going to win it. We'll tell you about our next predictions or our cup predictions.
The one other thing I'll say before we move on is I look at Florida's lines, and now you've got to, like, once Tkachuk and Barkov come back, it's going to move some guys down. But I don't see the same depth there, even with the addition of Brad Marchand, that I saw a couple of years ago. I mean, Lundell was not playing in the last game, so that's another one. But it's not the same. I mean, Luosterainen, Sturm, Puljujärvi's an okay depth piece, but Jonah Gadjevich, Rasmus Asplund, Maki Samoskevich has been good for them, but you're missing a lot of guys like Ryan Lomberg and so on that were really good for them in that last run. Yes, Bennett will be playing, but I think that there's just Florida doesn't have the depth they had a few years back. And I think Seth Jones, while he helps, I don't think he's all that great defensively.
Yeah. Well, again, Filk, but when you get the team that they got it up here, they're tough to knock out. And we could look at a lot of different teams that had the playoff experience, went up against teams that didn't have the playoff experience. And the experience does matter, because when your back's against the wall, you have to figure out how to keep moving forward. I mean, the old saying, of course, everybody loves the line of everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth from Mike Tyson. This one is going to be a lot of punching both ways. I just wonder this. This could be a short series, though, for Tampa, even though we're all predicting 7 games. Let's see what everybody else is predicting right now. 92% is saying Tampa in 6 or 7. 8%, the remaining 8% is Florida in 6 or 7. But, I mean, you got 2 coaches. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Both of them. I am having a hard time betting against John Cooper in this, and I really think it is their time. All right, so that's all of our first round predictions. Did we differ on one, Phil? I think we both had Colorado advancing.
Yeah.
You have Toronto advancing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. I think we agreed on all of them. Maybe just the number of games. That's about it. Because I had, I'll read off mine real quick. You can tell me yours. I got Toronto in 5, Tampa in 7, Caps in 6, Carolina in 5. The gentleman sweep right there. Kings in 6. Maybe that's where we differ. We differ Kings and
yeah, that's the one thing that we differed on, because Edmonton I had in 7.
All right. So out of all these first round teams, who do you see going deep into the playoffs? Let's go with your conference finals.
We're not going to go over the second round.
Well, all right. Well, because we're going to have different second rounds. That's where the hard part is.
Okay.
My second round is going to be Winnipeg versus Colorado.
Yeah.
The rematch of the first round last year. Phil, I think Winnipeg would come out on the edge on this one, because I think this is where Colorado's goaltending comes up short.
I went the other way. I think Colorado has too many game breakers. I don't like Winnipeg's defense against Colorado's in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think Colorado's got 2 true game breakers on defense in Taves and Makar. I think Nathan McKinnon's going to be a tough match. I think Colorado's center depth is the best in the league. 1, 2, 3. I don't think there's a better 1, 2, 3 punch right now. So I have Winnipeg is also a high PDO team. I mean, you could talk about that, but a lot of the guys that are putting up the points that they put up are guys that have put up those points in the past. So, like Kyle Connor, like he had a season like this already. So, same with Mark Scheifele. But the other thing that I think is that the defensive depth as a unit, it favors Colorado by far, if you ask me. Like you talk about Sandberg and Pionk and so on, but outside of Morrissey, they don't really have anybody that scares me. They don't. So I think that can overcome Hellebuck. If Hellebuck goes 97, 98 Hasek and gets to another level, then that's another story. But I just don't think they have the defense to hold up. Structurally, they're good, but they strike me more as a regular season team than they do as a deep, deep playoff team.
All right, so let's go to the other Western Conference one. We differ on that one in just one way because it's the Vegas Golden Knights versus either the LA Kings or the Edmonton Oilers.
And Vegas is winning that series either way.
Either way, they're winning that series. Why would you say that?
Because they're just too deep and balanced of a team.
Yeah,
I mean, look at that top four. You got Pietrangelo, Theodore, Hannafin, and Braden McNabb as that top four. Do you trust either LA's defense or Edmonton's defense against that defensive corps? No. They have the advantage in net as well. Aiden Hill over Stuart Skinner or Darcy Kemper? I'm going Aiden Hill.
With good reason, by the way, Phil, because Aiden Hill had since the Four Nations break, 920 save percentage, 211 goals against.
Yeah. I think that there's just a lot that goes in favor of Vegas. I think they're a deeper team. I think they have great matchup centers. You could put Jack Eichel out against Connor McDavid, and he may be able to do the job against someone like that. So I just don't think either of those teams have the depth or the defense to handle Vegas.
Phil, it's funny that you mentioned that. When these two teams played, when Vegas went over them in 6 games to win this, to go win the Stanley Cup, it was because they put Jack Eichel up against Connor McDavid. Yes, Jonathan Marchessault went off in that series, late in that series. But then after that, Jack Eichel just shut down McDavid. And to even say those words out loud, you're like, what? Really? Yeah, he did. It also helps when your winger is usually Mark Stone, too. So you got 2 guys that could help shut down the McDavid line. I think Vegas has possibly the easiest path to the conference finals out of any team. Maybe I do have another team that I could possibly put in there, but because we'll go to the Eastern Conference, we'll talk about them right now. Because I got the Washington Capitals beating the Carolina Hurricanes, and that could be a 7-game series, maybe 6. What do you think?
Hold on. Which series are we talking about?
Washington Capitals versus the Carolina Hurricanes now.
Oh, okay. So that one I went with Carolina over Washington. I think this is where it comes to an end for Washington. I just think Carolina has a faster, a little more of a well-balanced team. I could see Washington's size and physicality giving them problems, and I think Washington has the advantage in depth, in net. But I think that Carolina just plays a style of game that can really wear out Washington. And I wonder about Washington's ability to really keep up with that speed. The only problem I have with Carolina is their scoring depth. I don't like the depth that they have. I don't think there's a lot of scoring depth there. They got rid of Mikko Rantanen and they made that deal. And yes, they brought in Logan Stankoven, but they really didn't do a whole lot to supplement themselves on top of that. I mean, Sebastian Aho is obviously your linchpin. Seth Jarvis had a great year. Andrei Svechnikov, not so much of a great year for him. Shane Gostisbehere put up 45 points in 75 games. And then where is your scoring after that? That's what I worry about. I mean, Taylor Hall's been a nice addition for them. But Jack Roslovich and Jordan Stahl and Jackson Blake are really your secondary scoring options after that. And that's not good enough. But the one thing I will say is that Jacob Slavin, man, he is the best shutdown defender in the league. They have him. They have Brent Burns, who can still give you points, move the puck. Dmitry Orlov, same thing. I think they're a little more of a mobile defensive unit, but I think this is where it comes to an end for the Washington Capitals.
I kind of rolled my eyes for a second because I had the the Carolina Hurricanes much lower. They're 10th in goals against per game. My apologies to everybody that's listening and watching.
That power play is still going to give them problems, though. If they can't score on a power play like they couldn't for the two previous series against the Rangers, then you never know. They can find themselves knocked out in round 2 again.
This is where I have to ask a question. Are the Capitals ready to outwork the Hurricanes? Because when you outwork the Hurricanes, you get the bounces and they end up going in and Carolina ends up losing. It happened to them versus Florida. It happened to them versus the Rangers twice in the last couple of years. Last year, they went down 0-3. And the last time they played the Rangers, they just couldn't win on the road, and the Rangers got all the bounces, and eventually the Rangers got the bounces in Game 7, and they just took it to them in that game. That's a problem I have with Carolina. They just don't get the bounces.
2018 wasn't a fluke. So
no, it wasn't.
Anthony and I actually interviewed Joe Beninati about this. We actually interviewed all 3 of their guys. Joe Beninati and Craig Laughlin on Off the Post. And then when we went to the draft, I interviewed Alan May in person afterwards. But the word that was going around was that they were read the riot act. And that was, this is your last chance as a group. If this does not get done, you're getting broken up completely. And they came together and they pulled together and they won because they all brought in Barry Trotz finally. And that was it. So I am more so concerned about Washington being a big PDO team. Dylan Strome, is he really a playoff guy? We know Ovechkin is. We know Ovechkin's a playoff performer. But this is a 39-year-old Alexander Ovechkin. And yes, he's playing at a very high level in this regular season. But that's a 39-year-old man who just became the all-time leading goal scorer. How is his body going to hold up in an extended schedule come June? And I know he's missed time, but he came back from a broken leg. So he's played a lot of hockey over the years. Are we going to see the Ovechkin of last year's playoffs, or are we going to see the Ovechkin of this year's regular season carry over into the second round? Because I believe he could torch Montreal. I genuinely wonder about how he's going to fare against a faster team that's going to be able to really kind of push the pace and keep them locked up in their own zone a little bit.
I think that's where you need to rely and hope that you're going to get great series out of Alexei Protas, Connor McMichael. I mean, you could go down their list. Who knows what Ryan Leonard's going to bring, even if he's just depth piece on the fourth line. But I do look at the Capitals. I think there's something about them that I don't doubt that I doubt with Carolina. And it's because Carolina's just always come up short, Filk. So I actually have the Carolina Hurricanes falling to the Capitals. I think that could go 6 or 7. And then the last one of the second round, we'll get to the conference finals. We'll breeze through those and go to Stanley Cup final in a moment. But we have the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. Filk, who you got in this series?
So I picked Tampa. It didn't ask me for a number of games.
Yeah, it doesn't ask you for a number of games after the first round.
I'm gonna take Tampa, and I'm probably gonna go. I'm gonna say 6 for this one. I just think Tampa has too much firepower. I think the Gord and Bjorkstrand trade really kind of puts them over the top here. Toronto, they didn't look good in the second round when they won their last playoff series. I just don't trust this unit beyond the first round. I think that's where things are going to have to change in Toronto after this series ends. I like Vasilevsky better than the goaltending that they have, either goaltender, Solars or Woll. I do like what they've done to make themselves tougher and a better defensive team. But I just think that Tampa Bay has too much firepower, too much experience, and that's going to be a deciding factor for me.
Agreed, and I have Lightning in 6 as well. I think the Maple Leafs can get a couple wins in there, but I don't like their goaltending, at least not long term. Vasilevsky is the hottest goalie in the NHL right now. Vasilevsky has got the history of winning the big games versus Toronto. When you talk about playoff experience, it's literally in this series because they played so much. Yes, Toronto has a playoff series win because of a John Tavares OT winner against Carolina, Carolina, Tampa. But that team was not as good as this one. This team is much better. This team is a wagon, and it would not shock me in any way. I think once Vasilevsky gets a rhythm, the Leafs will get frustrated. Craig Berube, you got your work cut out for you if you're going to get him past the second round. We will see about that. So both of us have the same conference finals. We don't. We'll get both of us have the same Western Conference Finals. Oh no, we don't even have that one. Phil, I got the Winnipeg Jets versus the Vegas Golden Knights, and this is where the Central Division takes its toll. I got the Vegas Golden Knights advancing to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh, I have the Colorado Avalanche versus the Vegas Golden Knights. And I have Colorado going to the Stanley Cup Finals. Even though I wouldn't be shocked if Vegas won, I think that's a 7-game series. I just think Colorado has the game breakers for me. Can Eichel match up against McKinnon? Absolutely. I do think that Colorado has matchup ability with Nelson and Coyle at 2 and 3. I think their center depth is better than Vegas's. The goaltending, I would probably give the advantage to Aiden Hill just because I don't trust Mackenzie Blackwood in the playoffs. But Colorado has already shown that they can win with subpar goaltending. And they won in 22 with Kemper having a sub 900 save percentage in the Stanley Cup Finals. So for me, it comes down to the game breakers. You're going to have Taves and McCarr playing. If they play separately, that's an upwards of 40 minutes per game that one of those two is going to be on the ice. If they play together, then that's a dominant pairing that's going to be out there for anywhere from 23 to 26 minutes per game, probably in a regulation game, and that's going to be a problem. I love Colorado's scoring depth. I think Marty Necas and Nathan McKinnon are really starting to gel together. Gabriel Landeskog coming back is a big boost for them. I can't stress that enough. Again, they're Willis Reed right there, and that can have a profound impact on this series or any series that they're in. And if Gabriel Landeskog starts giving them offensive production, then that's a massive bonus. Look out, because Colorado's an absolute wagon. Vegas, they've got great depth. They've got forwards. They've got a great top 4, maybe the best top 4 in the NHL in terms of defense. Very well-rounded team. I think they're the only team that stacks up against Colorado in terms of balance on both offense and defense. But I just think Colorado's game breakers have the ability to really kind of take over that series and turn it in their favor.
You know, and you make good points about that because, man, Colorado, you look at the West. The West has just got some teams that are just – you look at the Dallas Stars. They're going to be Colorado or Dallas. One of them's going home in the first round. How about that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And maybe the best player in the league might be going home in the first round, according to me. So we go to the Eastern Conference. So you got Colorado and I got Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
We go to the Eastern Conference. we have the Tampa Bay Lightning, both of us, up against either the Washington Capitals or the Carolina Hurricanes. Filk, who you got advancing to the Stanley Cup Finals?
So I have Tampa Bay and Carolina, and that's going to be Tampa Bay. And you know what? I'm going to go 5 here. I'm going to go 5. I don't think Carolina stacks up well against Tampa. I don't think that they have the firepower to go with them. The lack of scoring depth really hurts. Again, I look back at that Bjorkstrand and Gord trade, and it gives Tampa the depth that they need to really go up against just about any team out there. Carolina's defense, it looks decent on paper, and the numbers were good for them. I think they were top 10 in goals against. Were they 9th? I think it was 9th least in the league.
They were 10th in goals against per game, Carolina.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a top 10 unit in terms of defense. I like Jacob Slavin, but who else is going to pick up the slack against Tampa's offense there? I just, the goaltending is a massive advantage for Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky is one of 2 goaltenders that you just do not have to worry about in the playoffs. The other is Igor Shesterkin. You know that you're going to get great goaltending from these two. And when you're facing off against that type of goalie as the opposing goalie, especially with somebody who's had a murky past in the playoffs and has kind of had some subpar performances that have cost its team, then I mean that's going to be in Freddie Anderson's head in this series. Freddie Anderson is realizing he's going to go up against another Russian goaltender that just has ice in his veins. And that's not going to work out well for Freddie Anderson. So I'm taking Tampa in 5 in this. And I think that's really that's going to boost Tampa to the finals where they're going to face Colorado in my cup final prediction.
Well, maybe Tampa Bay hurts him so much he has to eat a Danish to recover. But I don't know. I was trying to work Danish in there. But so it's Philk, I got the Capitals against them in this series. I don't think it matters. Everything you said applies. This is where the road ends. I think the Capitals end up going down 5 games to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay ends up having a short series. Sorry, NHL. The Eastern Conference Finals are not going to be that interesting. The Stanley Cup is going back to Florida yet again. The question is, which team is going to win it? And Filk, what is your Stanley Cup Finals prediction?
This is so tough. I might do some changing to this because I think this could honestly go either way.
Yep.
I think this is a 7-game series. The advantage is in goal for Tampa. Colorado has some real good scoring depth. I think Tampa, this is the deepest team they've had since 2022. Colorado is certainly a deep team, though, as well. And Nathan MacKinnon in the playoffs is another story, as well as Nikita Kucherov. But Nathan MacKinnon is more of a 200-foot player. And that's really what it comes down to here. Is I think that 1, 2, 3, their center depth is better, and then you have the best defenseman in the league in Cal McCarr. You have a 30-goal, 90-point defenseman that can just change a game completely by himself. I love their depth, though. I mean, you have Valeri Nichushkin, you have Arturi Lehkonen, Marty Necas has been great for them, almost a point per game. I mean, Sam Girard can move the puck on the back end. You got Ross Colton, the former Tampa Bay Lightning, a cup winner with them. Charlie Coyle was a great addition, as well as Brock Nelson. Funny enough, they both have 13 points in 19 games with Colorado. But there's just a lot of depth. Ryan Lindgren has been decent for Colorado. Funny enough, we're saying that. But there's just they did a lot, like you said, to kind of remold their team in the middle of the season. Chris McFarland deserves a ton of credit. I think, God damn, this is so tough. Oh.
It is. It really is tough to predict this.
I'm going to have to look back at the goaltending in this series and think that the goaltending is probably going to be the difference, because these teams are so well matched in terms of their offense and their defense. But I could seriously see Makar and McKinnon just breaking it open. I think the last time around, Tampa was just sluggish from playing all of that hockey. When you go to 3 Stanley Cup finals in a row, eventually it catches up to you, because you're having short summers every year. And I think that catches up. So I'm gonna go Tampa in 7.
Okay, I did not see that one coming, so I gotta adjust yours. Because the way you kept talking,
I think I'm gonna go Tampa in 7. Something about this Tampa team and the way that they've been playing ever since those trades. I just think something just. And I like Colorado a lot too. I think they're great, but something about this Tampa team just is clicking differently right now for me.
All right, so Phil's got the Lightning over Colorado in 7.
Yeah, Braden Point wasn't there the last time, and it went 6 games. I think you're going to have a healthy Braden Point. Yanni Gourde being back and revitalized helps them so much. Oliver Bjorkstrand coming in. And the other thing, they had Steven Stamkos last time, who was still putting up points. But his even strength play wasn't the greatest. You got Jake Gensel now.
There's one guy we haven't talked about enough for Tampa, and that's when Ryan McDonough came back in their lineup. He really is a guy that they use to shut things down. Filk, I don't know why I'm just going with my gut on this. And even though I say 7, it might be less than that, because I think the goals per game are going to be a little bit higher than what it is. I got the Vegas Golden Knights beating the Tampa Bay Lightning in 7 games. And it's just, you look at the Vegas Golden Knights, there is something about them. I think they're going to get out of the Pacific relatively easily. I just do.
That's actually a really good point.
And that's going to help them so much. They are focused. They are driven. Everybody seems to be healthy for them right now. That's another thing. I don't think we even talked about them using long-term injury reserve to hide players. Everybody's on that roster and they are healthy.
They do have a ton of depth.
They have a ton of depth, and you're looking
Pavel
at them.
Dorofeyev breaking out, scoring 35 goals.
I wish they could have
somebody on this panel was crying for Dorofeyev in that 2019 draft, but no, they passed him up. Why would you pass up on Pavel Dorofeyev?
I don't know. But then again, Filk, another guy that's had a great season for them, poison to Ranger fans' ears. Brett Howden He has been a great player for them, just fitting what they like to do. I mean, you look at their units, just man, this team, they got Riley Smith back in. I'm looking at some of their units right now. They don't have Mark Stone in there just yet. They will. But they're so deep, Filk. And I just think Tampa's going to run out of gas, even though I think their easiest series is series number 3. But I just something in my head just says Aiden Hill is going to stay healthy, and he's going to be able to match a lot of these goalies that are coming around, because he's not going to have a tough goalie to face until he gets to, well, I got LA. So depending on LA, so it depends on what you think about Darcy Kemper, but he might not face a tough goaltending matchup up until Vasilevsky. I mean, Vasilevsky, he's going to start against Bobrovsky. So we'll see how that develops. And then again, I like Tampa's path to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. These are 2 wagons. If it's flipped around the other way, I would not be surprised in the lead in the least. But Vegas does have the home ice advantage, and the Fortress is a great place for hockey. That I have a video that I have to edit during the summer when we went there, and just to tell you places to go while you're there and to enjoy. All right, so that's our predictions for the Stanley Cup. We didn't have Anthony's, so everybody make sure you are checking Anthony's X account. He has got a lot of news that's breaking, his opinions, and he's got his articles with the hockey news. So make sure you're checking out what Anthony is putting out there. So anybody agree, disagree? Who might you have in the Stanley Cup Finals? Matt is saying he's got the Panthers over the Avs in 7. A lot of people are saying Tampa in 7, Avs over Tampa in 6. But Nick is agreeing with me. Vegas has an easy path, and they will be well rested.
Yeah,
and that's what I keep going back to. Kevin is saying right here, Phil, you're too generous to give Carolina.
I saw that comment earlier.
And win in the Eastern Conference. They have not won in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think somebody said 2006. I thought it was 2009. They haven't won.
They didn't win a game in 2009.
They didn't. Okay, so no. So basically, since winning the Eastern Conference, they have not won a game.
No.
Wow. That is a hard one to believe.
Yeah, well, it's funny because that 2009 Carolina team, they got swept in the conference finals by Pittsburgh. It went let's see here. 3-2, 7-4, 6-2, and 4-1. They lost 3 straight games by 3 or more goals.
That was the playoff series, the one before that, not this one, obviously. That it was Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia, and that's the one that Malkin ends up cranking the slap shot in. I think he got checked before that, and then he
they won. Yeah, he got absolutely destroyed, and then he cranked that slap shot. But that was the first round. Pittsburgh won 4-2. And then Crosby and Ovechkin had the dueling hat tricks in the next round, the second round.
That game was amazing. That was game 2.
And then Malkin, I think, won a game in overtime in that series.
And then it got to game 7, and they were up 5-0. This is what made me realize Ovechkin gets it. He ends up getting the puck, a loose puck, just wrapping it into an open net, just raised his stick and went to the bench. It wasn't a big spectacle as he was making it out to be. By the way, everybody, make sure you're joining our bracket challenge. And who knows? Maybe I'll send out a hat or a shirt if you win it. So there has been. Is there any teams you guys think that we are underestimating in these playoffs?
The Atlanta Thrashers. Hard for Whalers.
Actually, in one way, yes, we're underestimating the Atlanta Thrashers because they're the Winnipeg Jets. So how about that?
Oh man.
By the way, Phil, I didn't know Anthony was here to make that joke.
Yeah.
We're gonna take questions for about 6 minutes, guys. We're gonna wrap this up at about 4:30, and I got work tonight. The Arizona Coyotes. See now the Arizona Coyotes we can't underestimate because I think it's stupid that they got the Coyotes history is no longer there. No, they moved. They're in Utah, guys.
It's so funny because Clayton Keller, since they moved to the state of Arizona, if you want to count these two, well, since they moved to America, that Winnipeg Jets franchise, no player had scored over 90 points in a season. Clayton Keller became the first one to do it this year. So he passes both Jeremy Roenick and Keith Tkachuk. Keith Tkachuk's 86 points was the previous record, which was Clayton Keller tied a couple of years ago, actually. But now he broke it. So interesting to see the improvement that they made this year.
It is an interesting improvement. I think the biggest thing about Utah is because you looked at their two-headed goaltending net and you wondered if one of them is going to step up. And because of injury, Carl Vejmelka, or Carl, I think he pronounces it.
Carl,
It is Carl. All right. Well,
yeah.
Well, I mean, if it's Carl, does he have to kneel before Zod?
Jeez.
Yes, I went there, guys. But Carl Vejmelka, kneel before Zod. But he really kind of stood out as their franchise goalie. And let me just pull up his stats real quick, because his stats were phenomenal, especially towards the end. Save percentage, he was only a 904 in save percentage, but he had 2.58 goals against. Man, Filk, he had a save percentage of 9.04 and a 2.58 goals against. He must have been under siege every single game. Man. Oh, by the way, he's got better numbers than Igor Shesterkin. Just, going back to that well.
Yeah, it's, I like what I saw. I mean, John Marino only played 35 games. Maybe if Marino's healthy for a full year. Sean Durzi only played 30 games. Those are two guys that were brought in to be top four defensemen for them. And they played a combined, 65 games. So, I mean, those are big losses for them. And Mikhail Sergachev, 53 points. Big year for him. That was his second highest scoring season. Barrett Hayton had a nice season for them. Michael Kesselring is one of the more underpaid and underrated players in the league. Got a massive shot, too. He's been clocked at like 103 or 104, I think, Kesselring. Kevin Stenlund was a nice addition from them. That's another player Florida doesn't have anymore.
Yep.
Kevin Stenlund.
Won a lot of faceoffs for them.
Yeah. Faceoff percentage, 59.2% for Utah this year. Alex Kerfoot's a nice addition for them. Jack McBain. I mean, these are just very, very good players. Nick Schmaltz stayed healthy and had a 63-point season. Dylan Gunther had a 60-point season in only 70 games. This team's on the rise. I think they make the playoffs next year.
I think they're on the rise, but I've been predicting them on the rise for the last 3 years, Filk. It's getting to the point of call me when you guys are irrelevant. I know they were close this year, but
they were very close this year.
They were very close, but they still weren't as close as Calgary. And Calgary, they might have prospects coming in next year and maybe some money to spend. So Calgary might make another jump. And if that's the case, who knows what's going to happen with them.
Is St. Louis going to be on another heater next year? Like, can they replicate that? Can they replicate that run after the Four Nations? I mean, I'll say this. You got one of the best coaches in the league, so maybe St. Louis can take a step forward. Is there a team that takes a step back next year? Does LA take a step back?
That is true. That's a couple of them that are in there.
You're going to be a year older.
By the way, Filk, I just need to snicker about this. Look, I understand I say some things and I might get some things wrong. I got a couple stats wrong today. I accidentally put in the wrong numbers. And I also I have some hot takes that I'll go with. But I saw a Rangers beat writer say Chris Kreider was a long shot to make the NHL yesterday. And I'm just going, you got to be kidding me. It was a first-round draft pick.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
I'm not even going to say his name. I don't care.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Like, long shot to make the NHL. First, 19th overall. Yeah. He was a long shot. Henrik Lundqvist.
The issue I had with that person is that person made a absolutely completely incorrect statement saying that players that are drafted out of Boston or New England area high school don't end up in the first round, don't end up making it to the NHL. Meanwhile, there's a laundry list of players that played New England high school / prep hockey that made it. And there were first round picks. I mean, Bobby Carpenter, Brian Leach, Rod Langley, Jeremy Roenick, and Tony Amonte played together at Thayer Academy. Keith Kachuk is another one. Kevin Stevens. I mean, you could go on and on and on. There's a bunch of guys.
Yeah, but it didn't happen last week, so that's neither here nor there. So,
that's just a completely incorrect statement. It just seemed like no research was actually done on that tweet before it was sent. But
and I don't mean to have like some sour grapes because he's got a bigger circulation and a fan base than I do, but it's moments like that where I got people that rip me about it and I can't help but just say, sure about that? Filk, there was a question. I was trying to find the statement about it. Oh, okay. Let me get it right here. I'll put it up in the chat. I know what my contract says. Mika Zibanejad says. Both parties agreed to it, and I think I earned it until it's time to adjust. I have no plans of going anywhere. I've invested a lot of years here.
Yeah, I think that's going to change a little bit once Chris Kreider's dealt. That's why I said what I said yesterday. I think that when you look at that team and you look at the changes that are probably going to happen in the offseason, I think reality is going to hit Mika Zibanejad in the face. If he wants to be here, he's going to have to really, really come back with a strong showing. So,
my problem with Mika Zibanejad still is he's getting paid big money to be the first line center, and now he's been ousted. And another argument I had in with the same writer was that Mika Zibanejad deserves credit for having however many points after January 1st. But in the meantime, his plus minus is abysmal. Well, it depends on who the new GM is, and I think there will be a new GM. I think there has to be a new GM. I have no idea how Chris Drury survives. And I know people are interpreting what I said last night still as my opinions on what happened. The real truth is you can't even have smoke anymore. That's why it's just don't even try it. And it'll always get out. Things are always going to happen. Now let's get back to Mika Zibanejad. Mika Zibanejad this season, Filk. I think he was. I think I had him at he was a minus 20, or a minus 21 for the entire season. So even if you want to say, okay, so he's minus 22. Worst on the New York Rangers by far. Alexei Lafreniere, who was trying to get to him, and he still only got to a negative 13. Now, even if you want to do by game for the New York Rangers, and let's give him January 1st and give him all the credit in the world. That I said before, Filk, he had a plus minus that Golden Tee golfers would have been envious of. Zibanejad at least checks in at this is since January 1st. Zibanejad checks in an even. So which one is he? Is he the one that was terrible all season long at the beginning, the first half of it, or is he one that's been even since January 1st? Can you even trust him? Because Filk, I mean, there were hostage negotiations that sounded less bleak than Mika Zibanejad's post-game pressers. I mean, it's just I think this team needs to move on from Mika Zibanejad, and I think Mika Zibanejad needs to move on from this team.
41 points, 14 goals in 46 games, even since January 1st. And if you want to do it from the JT Miller game where JT Miller came in, no, that was February 1st game.
Yeah.
Against Boston. So you're basically taking away the month of January. I mean, the numbers look a little better that way. He's like about 33 points in 32 games with a +/- +3. Had 11 goals, 7 of those even strength 4 on the power play. I mean, shooting percentage of 15.1. I mean, I don't know if a 15.1 shooting percentage is sustainable for him at this point. I mean, I'm not asking for 2020 where he went absolutely ballistic.
Mm-hmm.
But up to the JT Miller trade, 9 goals and 29 points, a -25 with an 8.2 shooting percentage. He's going to rebound from an 8.2 shooting percentage. That I can see.
Yeah, but is he going to have the motivation?
I think he gets read the riot act. And if he wants to stay, I think that same conversation that Chris Drury had with Artemi Panarin is whatever GM. I assume it's going to be Chris Drury. I would hope to God they would get rid of him after everything. But if it's Chris Drury, he's going to have that same conversation that he had with Artemi Panarin before the start of last season. And he's going to have that conversation with Mika Zibanejad. And if he plays the wing and he's no longer the center, then yeah, that's what you're looking at. Maybe he's better as a winger at this point. Maybe that's where he needs to be. However,
I got problems with him playing the wing. I don't think he's good enough to do it.
I don't think he's good enough to play center anymore. I think really what he is a winger. The question is he an $8.5 million winger? If he's a point per game winger and his defensive output is passable, then yeah, you could get by with him being an $8.5 million winger. That's not a crazy, crazy expensive winger, especially if he's giving you a point per game. The issue I have is, one, who's third line center at that point, because your center depth is crap right now. You don't have a center that's going to come in and play third line.
Oh, no, but Phil, you don't have to worry because they got the cap's going up next year. So they got to – oh, that's right. They needed to spend that money needlessly on their goaltender.
I mean, you can get rid of Carson Soucy. You're probably getting rid of Chris Kreider. That's $10 million off the books right there.
That is true.
I don't think they move Keandre Miller unless there is a hockey deal. So I don't see that happening unless maybe, hey, they go to Kevin Adams and they say, oh, you know what? Let's resume talks. We're going to open things up and we're going to go JJ Peterka and Bowen Byram for Alexei Lafreniere and Keandre Miller. Maybe the change of scenery. JJ Peterka is up for a big raise. 27 goals and 68 points this year after 28 and 50 last year. he's probably going to look at Alexei Lafreniere's contract and say, hey, you know what? I want that. And maybe that's the swap. I don't know. I've heard that J.J. Peterka is unhappy in Buffalo, and the Rangers and Buffalo Sabres are this close to making a deal for J.J. Peterka. Maybe that's the guy. I just think that there's going to be a different makeup to this team next year, and Chris Drury's going to have to get aggressive. If the plan is, and he's going to have to be very creative, as Vince Bercogliano said, but if the idea is to be aggressive and you re-sign your goaltender and you're not going to rebuild, then yeah, you're going to have to get creative and you're going to have to go after people, and they're going to have to dip into free agency. They're going to have to get a left shot defenseman, maybe even two of them. You're going to have to get, I would say, another top six winger. I know everybody's talking about Sam Bennett. I would be very careful. I would be very careful with that. Can you get him at $6 million or less? Okay. You can get him at $6 million or less. By all means, I'm cool with that. But I would be very, very, very careful about Sam Bennett, especially if you're talking about giving him $7 million a year. I know Kevin Hayes was making that type of money, but Kevin Hayes is not worth $7 million. You don't go making that same mistake. The idea is to draft and develop the next Sam Bennett.
Yep.
Not go and stupidly overpay for a 28-year-old Sam Bennett.
And again, Phil, you got guys like, Dylan Rubrek is not close.
Yeah, I don't think he's close either.
They're just guys in their system. You're going, I don't know if they're going to be the answer. I don't know where Adam Sikora fits in next year at the moment, if at all.
I don't think he does, and I don't think they're going to be in on Mitch Marner. I really don't. Unless Panarin is moved, I don't think they're in on Mitch Marner. And I don't know if they should be on Mitch Marner anyway. I
think even if Panarin is moved, I think Mitch Marner isn't the answer. You have to look at the model the Florida Panthers had a couple years ago. If you're going to say we're going to get tougher, Mitch Marner is not that. If they were tough and they needed more skill, Mitch Marner fits that easily. And he's a very good defensive player. Very underrated. My thing about this is I want a GM that has a clear vision. And it's quite obvious. Chris Drury, I think he had a vision based off of some of Gorton's dealings. I think Gorton wanted a completely skilled team. That's just what I keep saying. But I don't know if I want Chris Drury making any more decisions.
I don't think Shanahan going anywhere impacts where Marner goes. I think this is some flawed logic here.
Yeah.
I really don't think that has anything to do with that.
I think Lamoriello might go after him anyway. He drafted Mitch Marner, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe he did. But I don't know if I see Mitch Marner signing there. To me, the Islanders are not a team that I look at as a free agent destination, and that's not a shot at them. They just have not been. There's definitely some issues there. They traded Brock Nelson, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you going there to play with? Bo Horvat, Matt Barzal?
Also, Phil, let me continue on your thinking. Why should the Islanders do that right now? Build up your youth a little bit, get a little bit younger, get a little bit faster.
This Islander core has not won anything. It's not. They had their 2 conference final runs, and they haven't come close since.
And a lot of those guys in the conference finals runs are getting long in the tooth.
And not only that, but you went and you got Cal Ritchie for Brock Nelson. Genius move by Lamoriello.
Excellent.
I can't believe Colorado actually gave him up in that deal. They won a Stanley Cup so badly that they were willing to do that for Brock Nelson. And I like Brock Nelson, but I don't know if Brock Nelson is the piece that puts you over the top. Could he be? Sure. Do they have a great team otherwise? Yes. But that's a risky trade because that could end up being your ERAT for Forsberg.
Yeah. And I just think, Filk, I think Anthony kind of put this out there that the Islanders could remake some of their forward core very well next year and very quickly. Because Danny Nelson.
I actually just got word last night that it appears that Cole Yzerman is going to return to BU next year.
Yes.
So,
which that's actually good news for the Islanders.
Yeah, and he shouldn't. There's no need to rush him. Let him learn some defense at that level. Let him continue to develop offensively at that level, and bring him along when the time is right. Just rebuild. This team has not won anything. They had their two nice little runs where they were that close to the finals, but they didn't win. And like you said, the guys that were there are getting long in the tooth. Pelech and Pulock are hurt a lot, especially Adam Pelech. Adam Pelech seems like he misses a chunk of games every year.
Adam Pelech is the one that you might want to move out of the two Islander Pelech and Pullocks. And it's not that Adam Pelech isn't a very good defenseman, but he still is. Just he seems to be getting hurt too much.
Brock Nelson. That little Paul Heyman there. Love it, Joe.
But
oh my God.
And I know Romanell, I know you're hitting on the Bridgeport record, but Bridgeport's
a mess, and there are a lot of people not happy with what Chris Lamoriello is doing down there. A lot of Islander fans, so I get the frustration.
I almost don't care what the record is down there, but you don't want it to get too toxic that players are gonna be like, "Get me out of the organization."
Line to straddle. You're right, there is, and there's a difference between being a young team that's developing that isn't very good, and then being like the 2000 Wolfpack who won the Calder Cup, but they were a team of older guys that there was no real future with there. Like, if you look at that roster was, where was the future there?
Didn't LA, their AHL affiliate, play the Rangers AHL affiliate in the Calder Cup finals during the Stanley Cup finals when the Rangers were there, or around that time?
I don't think so. I could be wrong.
I mean, I'm spitballing at the moment. But again, like, I remember like the Rangers affiliate was having some success. I couldn't even name a prospect on that team.
So the 2000, I mean, they were coached by John Paddock, which he actually ended up being an all right coach at the NHL level. But, Derek Armstrong was their leading scorer with like 82 points. By that time, he was 27 years old. Mm-hmm. He was a guy that had played probably about like 60, 70, maybe close to 80 games at the NHL level between 93, 94, and 99, 2000. But like, that was, I mean, and you look back at the rest of the team though, like Brad Smith, that was another guy that was really a career AHLer that put up a bunch of good numbers for them that year in Hartford. PJ Stock was on that team. Johan Vitahall, I mean, that was another, he was 28 years old. And he had been, up and down the Ranger lineup for a couple of years. He was a Swedish League veteran. Daniel Gano had been up and down the Ranger lineup.
Oh my God, Daniel Gano.
Yeah. Remember the start he had to that 96-97 season?
Yep. And everybody thought, oh, look, he's going to be right there. Nope.
Talk about PDO shooting percentage through the roof. That was the 1996-97 definition of it right there, or personification of it. But Alexander Daig had 19 points in 16 games with Hartford before his call-up. I mean, Jason Dahl was another one who I believe had like a 50-point season with Buffalo years back. Yeah, 95-96, he had a 50-point year, then a 48-point year with Buffalo, and then he found his way to the minors, and he was there. But the point is you gotta be cognizant of what the record is, but also what the makeup of the team is, because the primary objective there is to develop young talent.
Yes.
And if you can win while doing so, great. Like the Philadelphia Phantoms, when they won the Calder Cup, I think it was 2005, I think it was. And that was when they had Richards and Carter. And they were, tearing it up. And that's, that's really, it's really what you strive for, is you strive to have an AHL team that's competitive. Maybe that can win it all. But there's a lot of young talent that you're going to siphon into the mother team in the next 1 to 2 to maybe 3 seasons.
And that's the thing. It's whenever you hear about like, oh, the team has got nobody in the minors. All right, well then, if that's the case, then how is their development? Are the players here? I used to say that actually in 2015 when it came to the Rangers. I'm like, well, all their prospects are here. You get like one here or there that people talk about, like a Duclair or a Buchnevich. But for the most part, all the players were already up. I think Brady Shea also came up too eventually. But the Rangers, though, they need a GM that's going to figure out what to do with their farm system and have a plan, develop. I think the Islanders are actually in better shape as far as the development goes. I mean, I got to check the stats on. Yeah.
They are, and they have 3 prospects that I look at the top of their organization, and I like Gabe Perreault better than any of the prospects that they have, maybe outside of Cal Ritchie, but their prospect depth with that Cal Ritchie trade got better. I mean, Cal Ritchie, Danny Nelson, Cole Yzerman, they've got some very, very good prospects now. I think if you did a prospect depth re-ranking, I think the Islanders would move up quite a bit. Yeah, and it's a good point by Romanella. Hershey's really the model. Hershey continues to win games and win Calder Cups, and they still churn out, no.
All right. Hey guys, I actually said we were going to cut it at 4:30. We went a little bit over, so
yeah.
Everybody, thank you very much. I got to cut this short, unfortunately, because I got to order dinner and get ready for work myself. Again, thanks for the support on everybody else, because I've been getting killed for some of my for my take yesterday, which I don't think is that crazy to say that I want people to not be anywhere in trouble. That's all you got to do. Just don't be a fucking idiot. But, and that's, again, like I said, if all the stories are at face value, then that's where the problem is. And we weren't getting into politics about it, because I know some people have made inferences about that in the comments. It wasn't anything about politics. So everybody understand that one. Thank you very much, everybody. This is our Stanley Cup prediction show, and we got it either going back to Florida or back to the desert and back to Sin City. So we'll see. We'll see if any of our predictions are wrong. Hopefully they're all right. Thank you all very much. We'll be covering this series a lot. Stay tuned for our season wrap-up shows coming next week. Everybody, take it easy. Take care.